Welcome back, Virtus Podcast. We're back, Season 4, again, another episode. Today we are very lucky. Mitch has made his way down the highway from all the way down Footscray Way. So today we have Mitch Greaves from MFP Performance, correct?
Correct.
Are we going with that? Yeah. Mitch is also the rehab coordinator. What's your actual title?
Head of Strength and Conditioning these days.
Oh, you head of strength now?
Yeah.
That's a spicy title. All titles are made up.
Tad different. Yeah. My last one was Performance Preparation Coordinator.
That's the one. Yeah, that was the one I was like, I don't know if it's still that or
the
not.
fakest title you could ever hear.
All titles. Maybe we can talk about all titles are made up. Head of Strength and Conditioning at Hawthorn AFLW. Previously at Carlton. Previously done a bunch of other stuff as well. And a conversation I'm very excited about because we have similar views on some stuff. And we've talked about a few of those over at Common Folk Coffee, which is delightful.
We should have recorded all that, really.
Oh, man, maybe we can open those can of worms now we've had some practice. What do you do, Mitch? What's your day-to-day look like? What do you do for the people?
My day-to-day is very different to what it looked like 2 to 3 years ago, really. What was it? It was during the second lockdown, I think, that I bought in at MFP, Melbourne Fitness and Performance. So
Timelines get a bit blurred for me when COVID comes.
Oh, mate, doesn't it ever? So, yeah, a lot more business stuff these days, but it probably still only takes up maybe 30 to 40% of my week. And then, yeah, kind of my year is split into two halves. One half of the year is AFLW, full on, plus MFP, and then the other half of the year is kind of summertime.
Yeah.
Which is grouse these days. I'm glad they made the shift when they did.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad to not have to stand in 40-degree heat 3 times a week.
Yes.
That much.
Although pre-season is a very different ball game now that it's winter.
Yeah.
It's a whole different ball game.
But I'm lucky. I get to stay inside most of the time.
True.
Yeah,
very true.
I get the very, very good end of the stick.
Indeed.
What is MFP? What do you do? What's your niche specialty? What's the business been set up as? What's that kind of look like?
So we started set up as kind of like a hybrid. So we had like our Gen Pop program, and then we kind of had our athletes plus like sport rehab would kind of fit into there as well.
Yep.
And then during COVID, we kind of pulled the trigger on just really streamlining and getting after the athletic population, both from a sport rehab and a performance standpoint. So we purely do that there now. We do have like a few Gen Pop and stuff floating through, but they're in there because they add to the energy, to the vibe more than anything else. So big youth emphasis now. Youth has really taken off over the last 6 to 12 months because we pushed for it. And then sport rehab is about to explode now.
And you're heading up that, right?
Yeah. I kind of oversee the senior athletic performance side of things as well as the sport rehab.
Yep. What's the general makeup of your clients? Do you have a lot of niche of one, or is there kind of mixed? I know it's quite mixed, but what does it have like an area where you, I would say, specialize in, or just because you come from those backgrounds, it's kind of what you guys do?
Yeah, probably our biggest streams to this point have been basketball.
Yep.
Because Mitch Greaves is heavily involved or has been heavily involved in basketball and still is. Tennis, because Ryan Plavin was a tennis coach before he became a strength and conditioning coach. So those were kind of the two footholds we found early, both from those two being involved in those sectors as well as kind of sport coaches that we started to develop relationships with. So they've continued strong. And then obviously my background in Aussie rules, that more bled into kind of the rehab side of things. Yep. And then, from there, we've kind of added a few other sports, starting to take off in kind of like combat. Also, and we've tried to like breach the netball and soccer markets as well. So, very, very mixed.
Yeah. Is there an area you want to branch into, or is an area you're currently looking at from a business point of view?
I want, I think netball and soccer. Huge. To continue to push into that. We're probably at the stage where we've got maybe 4 or 5 from each. Yep. And we think if we can breach that a little bit further, they're two markets that don't traditionally have a lot of strength and conditioning focus.
You can say it.
Tend to get a lot of their input from F45 or Body Fit partnerships. So both from we think we can really help those sports as well as they're just big markets.
Yeah, 100%. It's such a huge like area for growth that, especially in like a lot of the stuff we do, there's not really those big rocks that you can kind of tap into. And I agree with like that netball, soccer. Like there's so much untapped potential in that sporting environment that just is so powerful that it just doesn't get done.
Yes, and we're Western suburbs, so soccer is just
huge.
massive.
Yeah.
So we do have a couple of soccer-specific facilities around us.
Yeah, cool.
But, I mean, with the amount of soccer athletes there are out there, football athletes. See,
I don't work with any soccer football.
Yeah.
But I can understand where that comes from.
Exactly. So, yeah, that'll be big moving forward, I think.
Yeah. What about yourself? What do you do away from work? So, obviously, today, our topic for today, for those listening, will be, obviously, if you haven't read the title, will be like systemising and approaching field-based rehab or return to play, and what that looks like. So that's what we're going to dive into a little bit later. But a lot of today's conversation, obviously Mitch and I are in the same field, so it's easy to talk shop, I guess you could say. And
get carried away.
Yeah, talk shit and go down tangents. And I've already warned Mitch that it's a podcast. You can do whatever the hell you want. But what about away from sport life? What's life look like for you?
Life, me and my partner recently moved to Altona.
Yep.
So we're currently settling into that area. We were in Yarraville, so we're full west now. And so our day-to-day life has kind of changed a fair bit now.
Yep.
We're able to kind of go for morning walks down near the beach, and even Cherry Lake's really close as well. So
awesome.
It's been a really nice move. It's a lot quieter, feels a lot more suburbsy, but it's still really close to the city. So that's been really good. And then I've also made the move. I still play Aussie rules, still play footy myself. So I spent from under 12s, under 13s at the one footy club up until last year at Knox, where I grew up. So I finally made the move out to Altona Footy Club, which has been really refreshing.
Yeah, rumour has
really
it got headhunted, actually. Rumour has it they just kind of dropped the bag on the table and said, we want you.
That's not exactly what happened, I don't think. I probably just, badgered the coach until he took me in. So, but no, it's been really refreshing, really nice. Good. It's kind of going back up a division or two. So the standard's really high of training, which is a lot more enjoyable. Awesome. And I'm just looking forward to a bit of a fresh start from that point of view.
I was giving my next question. What are you looking forward to? So obviously there's so much that you are involved in and so much exciting stuff you're doing, both personally, business-wise, but also in your own profession.
Yep.
What's a few things you're kind of looking forward to? Not necessarily just this year. I know we're early into the year, but for the next kind of 2, 3, 4, 5 years, what's exciting for you?
Too many things. Too many things.
Do you like that?
I do. Yeah, for sure. I'm loving my 30s.
Yeah.
Like just relishing it. I think it's really really cool phase of life that I'm in at the moment, and I'm enjoying it. And like there's so many things like both professionally and privately that I'm looking forward to. One is like me and my partner going to Europe for 4 weeks in May, June. So
see Tyler when he goes over there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was over there in 2014, 2015. So it's the last time I was overseas. So I'm looking forward to getting back over there. I'm looking forward to like AFLW season kicking off again. Looking forward to little things like hiring our next junior athletic performance coach.
Yeah.
I'm diving into. I'm finally doing reflexive performance reset (RPR).
Yeah, cool.
Level 1
awesome.
course,
yeah.
which I'm really excited about as well.
Nice.
Something I've had my eye on for 4 to 5 years, and thought it might be a bit too voodoo, but I've thought I'll take the plunge and see how it goes. So nice. There's heaps of things.
Yeah, love that. What's on the horizon? What's now? What's for you now?
What's now?
It's kind of a weird time of the year for us, hey?
It is. It's less weird than it normally is, though. Normally, like it's just 4 or 5 months of no women's footy.
Yeah.
And I've just usually have just like a little off-season crew that just train their ass off for 4 to 5 months. But I'm actually at the club two nights a week, so it's been really good to kind of get frequent touch points with the girls over there, which has been great.
Yeah.
But it's meant that I'm more busy this time of year than normal, which is a bit of a catch-22, but it's nice. But between that and MFP, we've had 10 really strong applicants for our junior AP coach position. So looking forward, we've never actually put a job out.
Yeah, cool.
For a coach.
It's just kind of fallen that way.
Yeah, we've just had 6 really really consistent coaches for since we started basically. So it'd be fun to add a new younger coach into the mix and see how they go.
Yeah, cool. Is it what void are you trying to get them to fill? So we spoke a little bit about this lunch, but you bring on another new coach, which is young and exciting, and not that you guys are old by any means, but it is kind of in a way the next generation, I guess, of coach. Like what's the most exciting part of that, and what are you excited to teach them and let them kind of grow into if they want to an extent as well?
Yeah, I think it's kind of that sweet spot between interns. You're really trying to fill gaps that haven't been filled through undergrad and show them what real life as a coach is like. So it's kind of that rude awakening for them. So I'm looking forward to kind of people like someone coming in that's kind of already been through that. Yeah. They know what they're in for. They know what they want to do. And we can kind of have a little brother or sister on side of the facility and kind of go, Bit of energy, like just thrilled to be there, thrilled to be working with athletes and just hungry.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that a lot of junior coaches want. They want athletes, and I think for you guys in particular, now you've like really niched into that athletic side of things. And I mean, the sporting population out that way is massive, huge.
Yeah.
There's so much to tap into that I'd be pretty excited if I were them.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I'm sure 10 people will tell us that they're excited for it, for sure. So, we'll see who gets it.
What's your application process look like?
So we've just been through the physio.
Yep.
That physio hiring process probably only Tash? 3 months ago. Yeah, Tash Nedden, who's been fantastic since she come on. So it'll be quite similar. In the past, we got 2 attached to 1 or 2 applicants early based on either recommendation from someone else or resume CV.
Yep.
And kind of discarded the rest and went, boom, let's just interview those 1 or 2.
Sure.
Physio, we went, okay, let's really do our due diligence and go after 4 or 5. Yep. Make them do like a practical segment, face-to-face interview, write us a program before you come in, all that sort of stuff. So it'll be pretty similar, which is great because you kind of get a little bit of an insight into in all different facets.
Yeah.
But above all, we just want someone that, we're going to get along really well with day to day, that's hungry to learn, because we can fill in the gaps from all the other viewpoints.
Yeah, I love it. What do you do really well at MFP? What's your strength?
Yeah, I think our strength is like energy vibe, and just really pushing athletes to be better, not just from a in the gym standpoint, but outside life as well, which is really cool. I think it's very easy to get people strong in the gym. It's pretty simple once you've been in the industry for a fair while, but actually being interested and invested in your athletes and guiding them with things like sleep, nutrition, all that sort of stuff, but not telling them what to do.
Yeah,
guiding them is very, very different.
Make their own good decisions, I guess.
Yeah. You're just kind of planting seeds and hoping that they pick up and start to implement some of those things themselves. Because you can tell people as much as you want, but it doesn't mean that they're going to actually do it. I think those things we do really well. And then I'm biased. I think like our sport rehab side of things is just phenomenal for a private setting. It's it's about to explode, which will be interesting because we'll have to scale up what we do right now. But the system that we have at the moment, by providing access to field as well as gym and all that sort of stuff, I think sets us apart from a sport rehab foundation.
Yeah, 100%. And from the outside looking in, I haven't actually been down there. I will make the trip up, don't worry. That's something that I really envy about what you guys do, is you do that really, really well, and it's not something that lots of people do well, hence, which is what I want to talk about with a little bit later on, like systemising and approaching field-based training, not even just return to play. I know that is highly specific to you from like a return to play, perform side of things, but just generally improving those athletic abilities, that's huge.
Yes.
And, we have the conversation of strength and conditioning. It's strength and it's conditioning. There's different aspects, and I think you can even branch that out into when we're talking about field-based versus gym-based, and that's another different area. And I think I know from the outside looking in, something I really envy that you guys do, and it's something that you do really, really well. It's great. I love it.
It's probably not a smart business decision because you could have 2 coaches in the gym, more people in the gym, and financially you're better off. But from a service point of view, I tell you what, you just can't get the same results, particularly from a rehab point of view. But we think even more so, from a performance point of view as well. So, and going back to your strength and conditioning point of view, we deliberately made the decision to call our coaches athletic performance coaches because we feel that term encompasses much more of what we do and doesn't pigeonhole us into 2 very, very specific areas of athletic development.
Huge,
we also didn't want to go athletic development because we feel that that kind of pigeonholes us with junior or youth.
Yep.
We felt that athletic performance encompasses all of those areas, but then also allows for areas such as like tactical S&C as well, like fireys and all that sort of stuff, to still feel like they can come and get coached by us as well. So yeah, we'll stand by that name choice. I think it's much better, and I would be trying to have that conversation at Hawthorn very soon, I think.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, from a value point of view, as you said before, like getting someone strong it's not hard, to be fair, and especially when you've been involved in it for so long, like running strength programs, power programs, like that's water off a duck's back. Like it's quite easy, and a lot of people can do that really, really well. Whereas I don't think a lot of people can write field-based sessions well, full stop, at all. And knowing that that's something that you guys do really well. I mean, from the outside, as I said before, like that's something that I really, really value. And like if I have anyone out that way, like I'm sending them your way for that reason. It's something that from an athletic ability point of view, it's way more valuable for the most part than getting someone strong. I think, at least, because your opponent doesn't care how strong you are. It's whether you can get away from them and around them and up and down and all that kind of stuff.
And can you apply that strength quicker than the person next to you? Yeah, absolutely.
It's one, do you have it? It's another thing, how do you utilize that, or how do you use it? Which I think, is super undervalued.
For sure.
Or not even, I don't think it's undervalued, actually, now I think about it. I don't think it's something that's undervalued. I think it's something that doesn't get taught that well.
Correct. It's
younger
scary.
Coaches. Yeah, 100%.
It's scary as a young coach.
Black and white. It's not black and white.
Because to sprint someone is scary.
Yeah.
When you're a junior coach.
Yeah.
You automatically think, I don't want to hurt this person.
Yeah. How do you get over, or how do you get over that hurdle potentially with your coaches?
And there's two ways. You get thrown into the fire, which Josh Milner did to me at Carlton. Basically, when I came on board, he's like, you're not just a rehab coordinator, you're a performance preparation coordinator, whatever the fuck that means. But, so part of that was on-field speed, agility, and quickness. And so, from there it was like, okay, I have to learn this to not look like a phony. And apply it pretty quickly. So it was dive into the content or whatever I could find, and then practice myself, which is, I feel like, is the biggest step that people don't do. And probably why people end up hurting people, and then just avoid it altogether. And then, just try and start to apply it. I think coming from a rehab background helped, because being in a rehab setting, you're naturally very risk averse. So when I had to start applying this stuff, I was also very risk averse. It probably took me way too long to actually expose people to maximal effort sprinting than what it does now.
Sprinting compared to high velocity running is slightly different.
Exactly. So probably dive too much on the drilling and the technical side of things. Without getting straight to like the performance enhancing stuff. But you got to start somewhere, and you build the foundations, and naturally you just get better and better at it over time. So
What are some valuable resources you tapped into early on?
We did Exos's the 0.1 of a second difference course. I think it was.
I know the one to talk about.
It was great. It just basically goes, here's a bunch of drills that would get your athlete quicker for a combine, which had nothing to do with us, but we just wanted the drills.
It's something that they're really good at. That's what they do.
Exactly, and it was phenomenal. We picked up some great stuff. And then from more of a broader overview point of view, we looked at, like we did, I think the old Altus, not the Need for Speed course. It was one of their COVID webinar series or something.
I can picture it. I
Yeah.
can't remember what it was called though.
So we did that, and that was great from like a conceptual point of view. And then what else did we do? And then I think a year or two later, we looked at Play had their like online learning platform for a bit there, and Gary Schofield did a change direction agility course, and that was phenomenal.
Yeah, I remember. I did it.
So good, right?
Yeah, highly valuable.
Oh, and it's gone now.
I know.
Can't find it anywhere.
It's funny you say that, because I was actually looking for it the other day, because I was putting together a presentation to do to a school, and I was like, great little resource. Go back and try and find it. Couldn't find it anywhere.
Yeah, vanished.
Shit, why didn't I save this stuff?
We found one guy on YouTube that like just ripped off and just recorded a heap of his exercises on
I mean, we're coaches. That's what we do.
Right? Exactly.
Let's be real. We probably haven't had an original idea.
Not
maybe
a chance.
a few.
Just good thieves.
Yeah, great.
Good,
thieves.
honest thieves.
Honest.
Yes, absolutely. don't claim to create anything.
No.
That's the biggest thing. So that was great. That was really good, and that was directed at a high school level.
Yep.
So again, very, very foundational, but so applicable, particularly in rehab, like bridging the gap between actually exposing people to full-blown change direction agility and how to kind of bridge that gap. So those were 3 big ones. I'm definitely missing 1 or 2, but you know what? The first one we did was me and Mike bought a program off Nathan Keeley.
Oh, yeah.
It would have been 2018 or 2019. Yep. And we bought a 3-day speed program off him.
Yeah.
And it was basically just Axel theme day, Max V theme day, and then a COD. Yeah. And it was great. We just went and did that, played around with some drills. He was quite good at just messaging back if we didn't know what something meant.
Yeah, he's good with that stuff. He's pretty tapped in.
Yeah. And then, we just kind of went from there.
What did you find the most valuable, not necessarily content-specific stuff, but the way that those resources set it up? Like, what did you find or take away from that going, hey, this is like from a foundational point of view? Did you look at and go, yeah, I think I can input this kind of stuff?
Very, very progressive.
Yep.
Just, it was clearly written by strength and conditioning coaches who had picked up methods or philosophies from track and field coaches and systemized it the way that speaks our language.
Yeah.
So, we could sit down and go, okay, what's our progression towards a back squat or a front squat or whatever it is.
Do it with your eyes closed.
Don't even you could fill that whiteboard over there with a million progressions, based on whatever you wanted to. And it was kind of similar. It was like, okay, how do I build towards a 20-meter acceleration effort? What are the drills that I think improve that? And then here you go. This is the sequence that you put them in. It was brilliant because, it's one of those things that conceptually or theoretically, you look at that stuff and until you feel it, you don't know.
No.
There's no way to know.
Yeah, and that's something I really, really try and instill in our interns here is get yourself out of the gym. First get yourself in the gym because that's a nice, easy, really clean place to start because it's easier.
Yeah.
But also, like, get yourself outside, like sprint, run fast. Like, not just like run fast, but sprint.
Yeah.
Because there's a difference.
Wake up the next day and have your hip flexors absolutely torched and go, what the hell? That session took me 30 minutes. Yeah. I felt fresh as.
Yeah. And
you've got to understand how aggressive that stuff is.
It's one of those things, as you said before, you don't know until you know. And me coming from a bit of a track background, like I pick things up a little bit easier in that aspect. And, I've done some pretty grueling track sessions and sprint sessions, but also know what it feels like to run fast. Not that I can do that much anymore.
Yeah.
A bit washed up, a bit retired. But like some of our interns, like I don't care if you're not going to go play sport, but if you're someone who wants to work in performance at all, full stop, whether that's with weekend warriors, whether that's with endurance, whether that's with team sport, you need to know what some of this stuff feels like.
Yep.
And everyone always harps on, hey, get yourself in the gym, get yourself under a bar, etc. Like pick up a deadlift, know what that feels like. But I think again, everyone forgets that field-based side of things.
For sure.
Sport is field-based for the most part, or court-based,
Correct.
or anything like that. It's moving your body through space. It's not picking up a bar off the ground.
No, absolutely. Yeah. It's where you can literally apply what you're working on in the gym and feel it in real life sporting movement.
Yeah.
And then go and apply it in a sporting context. Yeah.
What do you find most valuable from you own personally, besides feeling what it kind of feels like, but you getting out there and trying different things? What are some things you pick up on while you're doing it?
Yeah, so many things.
Like I'm coming at it from a point of like, how do you coach it? Like from what are the little things like you pick up when you're doing it? You go, oh, I didn't think I'd actually realize that.
Yes.
Is there some general concepts or things that you feel while you're doing the field-based sessions? You go, didn't think that was going to happen.
Yes. I think the first layer for me was the timing coordination side of things. Sure. And how hard that can be to start off with, but how quickly the learning effect can be with that side of things. And then how much that bled into, and this is one of the benefits of still playing sport myself, is how quickly that bled into my sport, which, again, it's local footy, but you feel the difference. Yeah. And how that's accumulated over kind of my footy career has been, quite amazing to watch, and why I believe in that side of things so much. So I think that, but then also from a nervous system point of view, like, again, one of the biggest things I harp on with our interns, coaches, and all that sort of stuff is we're training the nervous system. We're not training muscles. Yep. And it sounds so simple, but it's just something that can be so easily forgotten when you're thinking movement patterns or muscle-based programming.
Yep.
So it literally supercharges your nervous system so you can get more out of everything else.
Yeah.
Mike Boyle calls it the ultimate power exercise, and you can do it multiple times a week.
Yep.
So I think those two things, from a rehab point of view, I think understanding the position specific strength that you can build up, both globally and isolated. I saw that there was a link between the gym and the field based on that, particularly in rehab. So, like we use basic things like wall holds, like doing cutting shapes and crossover shapes and all that sort of stuff on the wall in rehab from day dot.
Yeah.
And you would walk in, and if you don't explain the significance to the athlete, they're kind of like, why am I doing this? But they feel it once they get back onto the field. They're building up, position specific strength through the foot ankle complex, through the knee, starting to get exposure to those gentle rotation forces before you're even taken to the field. So they've actually done return to running stuff 4 to 8 weeks before they've even started to think about running. You can't put a price on that.
Yeah, and I have this conversation a few times. More athletes that come in here than I do at St Kilda, but I say to some, sometimes getting injured is the best thing you can do. Because it teaches you, takes you back to a foundational level that you learn all these things that you're never ever going to get taught. Like, if you go through your whole career and not get injured, great, fantastic, very, very jealous of you. But God, it's good to get injured sometimes because you get that exposure, which you don't normally get.
100%. And you've got the cognitive space and energy to actually absorb the information that the coaches are giving you without thinking about your own performance on game day, training day, looking at footage, trying to fit into tactical systems and all that sort of stuff. You're able to actually absorb the education side of things from a performance training and lifestyle point of view, which is going back to the AFLW. Now that can actually be involved through off-season, I can't talk to them about making sure they're having protein every day or stuff like that in season. They're already overloaded and overwhelmed.
To think about.
They got 5 or 6 weeks before they're into practice matches. They don't want to hear me talk about the importance of getting your elbows up in a front squat.
I love that.
5 to 6 months of clear time and space where I can go through that is
such
magic.
great.
And rehab is exactly that.
Such a great time for development of so many different qualities.
Yeah.
You mentioned it before. How do you sell your athletes on the importance of this stuff when they just want to come in and lift or they want to come and run fast? Like, how do you get it across the line, I guess? To those that aren't necessarily receptive to it to start with, maybe.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think nowadays we attract a lot of people who come because of that.
Yeah.
So I probably don't have to sell it anywhere near as much as what I used to at MFP. Hawthorn is a different ball game. Yeah. Carlton, they got very used to it.
Sure.
It being a really key component.
That's what I kind of picked up as well.
Absolutely, and that's because Josh valued it so much.
Yep.
Which is critical, and Liv Knowles values it heaps as well, which is great. So they've all bought in, but they're still learning how to do it.
Yeah.
They do it. They're very good at ticking boxes.
Yep.
And doing stuff consistently, but they still don't quite understand the intensity with which to bring to those sorts of drills and exercises to actually get the most out of it. Because it is a very different thing to train versus the gym.
Yep.
First 1 to 3 years in the gym, slow, controlled, learn your tempos, learn your positions. Like, it's not until a while later that you're learning to lift with intent, unless they're a very, very good lifter and are accelerating pretty quickly. Whereas speed stuff, it's like, I need you quick and bouncy and, it's different.
In what way, what's the process for you trying to combat that for the next, for pre-season potentially now or off-season now? How are you trying to accumulate that?
I'm trying to get the girls in.
Yeah.
Is step number one.
Yeah.
Which, again, I think having the private experience gives me a leg up on probably other coaches in terms of getting them in. So like creating little groups on Microsoft Teams and stuff like that, and just drip feeding information, or like, hey, we're going to test, a counter movement jump, which is going to allow us to do X, Y, Z for your next block. Like, giving incentives to come in and actually train with you. That's step number one. Yeah. Once I can get the girls in consistently is to just get them in there. And then from there, I just need to coach the hell out of it and just get them used to the rhythm aspect and the timings aspect of that athletic development section. And I think once I've got these timing gates in, which are hopefully coming in the next month, I'll hopefully be able to show them what it looks like and why it's important. Because, from a GPS standpoint, you can show the max V, but how much does max V tell the story? Probably not that much.
It's not as representative, I don't think.
Exactly. So I'm looking forward to that, and then looking forward to just microdosing a bit more education as we go along from why it's important in different scenarios.
Yeah. Is there, obviously Hawthorn was your first year program, or was a first year program.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you notice potentially from the girls that are new to an AFL program that you probably haven't been experienced to before necessarily? Is there some common deficits or things that they're lacking that you may have noticed? And this obviously goes for your time at Carlton too, but those that are coming out of, I'm thinking like 16s, 17s, 18s, NAB League, something that they, if they're listening to this, can go, I think this is a pretty good idea I need to tap into that I might be struggling with. Is there something they come to you with that's deficient, or some common trends you might notice, or they just don't know how to do potentially?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think if you ask me this in another year's time, I'll have a much, much better answer. It was kind of a weird period, which where we kind of only got access to those freshies that were still at school real late, and then only once or twice a week. So the amount that I got to see them versus the other ones was very different. And I think that it's probably a bit skewed in the fact that our list manager and recruiting team probably went after some athletically gifted players.
Yep.
So, probably lucky.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them are starting to get taught how to lift better earlier, which is great.
Yep.
And they're being taught what it kind of takes to be a professional athlete. So they're kind of coming in with a bit more of that mindset earlier than some of the other girls. But from a deficits point of view,
even from like a movement point of view, like is there anything even like we're talking about foot ankle, like complex that, the positioning, anything around that kind of space that they just haven't been exposed to potentially?
I think the majority haven't been exposed to much of it. Not much. And if they have, it's probably like, really simple things like A march, A skip, A run, and then sprint. I'll come back to you with something there.
I'll mark a date down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, the programs are part of NAB League and schools and stuff now, especially for female AFLW. Obviously, it's really relevant for us. They're getting like way better than what they were, but I still think, and this is again why we're talking about this today, is that field-based side of just being able to move fast is something I think that unless you come from a track background or you go to a school that has a pretty good track program, you don't really get taught that. You either naturally got it, but there's no progression to get better at it to an extent. I even think for like a lot of our girls that we get in for first year and like potentially coming from VFLW programs, like they are taught to lift, and some of them come in like moderately pretty strong. Like, oh, it's so nice. It's a nice change. But again, I think it's that moving your own body through space that's still a little bit lacking.
Big time.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Well, I'm lucky that I've got a direct view into the NAB League side of things. So Dave Anstis, who works with us, is the HPM at Northern Knights, met with the boys. And then Michelle Andrews, my girlfriend's sister, is the HPM with the girls at Northern Knights. So watching those programs almost double their investment for the women's program and match the men's or the boys, that'll be game changing in terms of developing the girls moving forward. So we will reap the rewards of that
if we're still there.
if we're still there. If we don't get the arse next week. So
I love that. I reckon let's dive into some systems and some processes, because I think again that's something that's highly valuable that you do quite well. When you are starting out, where do you start? So I know it's a big, broad question, but what's the thing you get directed to start with when we're talking about field-based training?
Field-based training, are we talking rehab, performance?
Maybe each, or if they're kind of similar. Like what's? Maybe let's start with rehab, because I think that's foundation, that's fundamental.
Yeah, rehab is from day dot, we are getting them to do some form of athletic development section.
What's that look like?
It literally will just look like wall holds on their unaffected side, straight away. Yep. So they're just doing isometric holds. We typically just hit an acceleration-based position, a cut-based position, and a crossover-based position, if they can tolerate all three of those positions. And then they'll go straight into basically an upright sprint, 3-position wall cycle. Again, whether they can do that unaffected side or affected side from the start, or whether they bleed into it as they get healthier, it's kind of where it goes from there. Yep. And then it's basically as tolerated or as guided by physio. So we will get them from there working like basic hip lock positions. We'll get them into dribbling as soon as we can. Yep. Like as soon as we can.
How good can you dribble?
How good can I dribble? Yeah. I've done them to death.
Yes, it's one of those things you need a murder to actually work it out.
Yeah, exactly.
For anyone who does not know what dribbling is or hasn't done it before, please go try it because you know what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's not this form of dribbling. No. It's very, very different.
And that's normally what I do.
So we have like our return to running protocol. And by return to running protocol, I mean return to dribbling protocol, basically. Yeah. Yep. And that involves, can they tolerate impact on that affected side, and can they hit the positions we need them to hit on that side?
Do you have metrics or things you look at for those two specific things? No.
Nah, physio and Dave will both have a look at the testing point of view. I have been doing it by feel.
Sure. Yeah, no.
For the vast majority of my career so far. I'm lucky now that I'm going to have the data to back that up, which is going to be great. But I I don't envy coaches coming up who are going to have to rely on data from early on and not be able to develop the feel.
Feel you. And we were talking about this over lunch.
Yeah,
feel
that's a whole different...
Can't teach feel.
Kettle of fish.
Yeah. Let's not dive that.
No,
that's a podcast in itself.
Exactly. So like that's literally as simple as just going through, like we might go through a tall to short progression of like, can you hit double leg, split stance, single leg? And I'm talking like 2 to 3 reps of each. Can you do it?
Sure.
And then we go through like our wall max velocity drill with, can you actually get the knee flexion position required to do an ankle, shin or knee dribble, and we kind of go based off where they're at from there. So like within, people always ask me like, when do you get like an ACL back to return to run? And it's kind of such a fluid process that often I forget to celebrate the first actual run.
Yeah.
I go, oh yeah, you just did you ran for the first time, kind of, even though you're running sort of 4 weeks ago. Yeah. I just think the value in training whatever the affected joint or muscle is in those positions from day dot allows for a really smooth transition from a coordination-based standpoint back to when they are actually able to get back and run. Yeah. I have no idea if that answered your question.
No, absolutely. I think a lot of people understand to an extent like the return to run protocol and what that looks like, but I think they miss the starting point. I think they go straight into your A marches and your bit of hopping and things like that, and miss the impact control and things you were talking about, which I'm glad you brought up because I'm trying to lead you down that path.
Okay, great.
But no, perfect. And I think when we're talking about returning someone back into squatting, anything like, we can do that with our eyes shut. But again, field-based stuff, I think it's kind of voodoo science to a lot of people. They're too scared of it because a lot of them haven't been exposed to it, to be fair.
Well, you have to have time in the trenches to actually understand, and you have to have made mistakes.
Yeah, fuck it up.
Yeah, exactly, to get the feel or develop the feel. Yeah. And you talk about impact. Impact is huge. Yeah. Massive. Impact is massive. Like, depending on what you're coming back from, like the difference between doing an A march for, let's say, an ankle, coming back from an ankle sprain versus coming back from a quad strain. Yeah. 2 completely different things. Mm-hmm. Like, where you put that drill, it might not be that much different, but it also could be very different.
Yeah. Yeah, that was actually a nice little segue there. What changes depending on the injury?
Yeah.
Which way do you shift to an extent?
I talk a lot to our guys about how the athletic development space or the speed, agility, quickness timeline doesn't change too much in rehab. It's just probably you start off with a lot more like max velocity based drilling, and tip that to the start versus a lot of the acceleration base work. But again, it's so dependent on the injury. Like Jordan Mendegushia does some fantastic stuff on early acceleration drilling post hamstring strain, because he just views it as such a safe space to get that work in. Versus coming back from an ACL and looking more at ground reaction forces through the knee, starting off with very, very ankle dominant work, because we know that has a really good protective factor on the knee joint, and we can get some good work in there early. It changes a lot, but it also doesn't change that much, which is a terrible answer.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, because it's right, and it's one of those things that people want the black and white, but when we're talking about, especially rehab, like rehab is never black and white.
No.
As much as even training itself, like as much as we want a clear, defined start and finish, you're never going to get it.
No.
And you'll have this. I'm sure you answer a lot of questions similar to me. It depends. Like that's, and lots of people get frustrated by the answer. It depends. Well, you just need time in. That's what we keep coming back to, is you need to get exposure to the different things to understand what the outcome is.
Yep.
And you can't unless you actually stick your head down and ass up, and okay, there are gonna be certain situations where you get exposed to this, which is very lucky, and you're gonna get somewhere you're gonna get an injury you've never had before. And as you said, sometimes you got to trial things.
For sure.
And this is what it comes back to, the systems and processes around. This is where we start typically, and then we're going to shift left or right depending on what's in front of us.
Yep.
And I think, again, it's one of those undervalued things, is people don't know where to start.
Yep.
We know our agility progressions. We know our running progression. We know them to death. But it's the impact control. It's the smaller stuff that is foundational that pays off big time in return. And I think, as I said before, it's something that's highly valued that is undervalued to an extent that it's missed. And I think what my next question is going to be is, like, when let's say Deacon comes to you and say, hey, Mitch, I want you to put together a unit on field-based training. What do you start with? How are you going to teach that? And I had this question preloaded before we even started, because it's something I think that, tapping into how you think about this stuff, and I can see your brain working over there. Yeah, it's so good. I'm going to zoom in on that later. Because it's one of those things that there's so many places to start with.
Yeah.
And for young coaches, it's something that I couldn't recommend highly or high enough.
Physiology.
Yeah.
Physiology. I think the unit, that was the question. If I had to develop a unit?
If you're going to start a unit or start a program, what's it?
It would be, physiology and looking at sporting movement and going, okay, how do we train that?
Yeah.
And a big component of that is speed, agility, quickness training. And then from there, like, it would just be so heavily practical.
It's so fun though.
Yeah. And I hope that you all injure yourselves at least once throughout the unit.
Yeah.
Because what you can learn from hurting yourself doing some of this stuff is just worth its weight in gold. Because then you have to work around however you've hurt yourself and bring yourself back to quote unquote normal.
You never come back as a worse mover. Ever. There's a reason for
Yeah.
that.
I mean, like, so we run our Need for Speed workshop, which is designed to be.
I was quite flat about that, actually.
Yeah, it's we love it. It's really great, and it kind of basically brings all the stuff that we've stolen from every other good coach into kind of like one day or one bundle, and we just roll people through just over and over again, practical examples of things, but then always bring it back to kind of the theory side of things.
Yeah.
And I think we try and do a really good job of, I always talk about zooming in and zooming out over and over again. I think we do a really good job of zooming out and understanding and accepting that speed itself, people talk about game speed, is such a highly complex and multifactorial thing that it's easy to get overwhelmed.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, you can dial it back in and implement some really, really simple stuff and get really, really good results. Yep. I think if you, like, when I'm designing field-based sessions, like, I'm thinking, okay, what kind of theme does this day have, or what is the big rock that I'm hitting, and how am I preparing the athlete to get the most out of that big rock?
Yep.
So, like, early on with our like developmental athletes or year 1, 2 athletes, like I like blocking or theming the day.
Sure.
Again, coming back from a motor control or motor learning point of view, I don't want to overload them with a mixed theme day and try to teach them max V concepts, Axel concepts, in the one session. So I like doing it that way, either by doing like an acceleration themed block. So you might be hitting that twice a week for like a 4-week block or 6-week block, or having like Axel, max V, COD across the week. And then later on, like with like pure performance-based training in this space, like year 2, year 3, year 4 athletes, like that's when I feel like I can get some really good bang for my buck in terms of exposing them to more change direction, agility, which realistically is acceleration work anyway. So I feel like everyone's really, really hung up on straight line speed and has been for the last little bit, which is great. Like everyone needs to start somewhere. And if that's where you're starting, that's perfect, because a lot of the concepts are very applicable to change direction agility. But people are undervaluing the importance of change direction and agility.
Do you think that comes back to complexity again? Because straight line running's easy.
Again, scary.
Yeah. Because it is horrifying. It's terrifying.
Yeah, 100%. Because it's also, if you look at how some people train agility, it just looks chaotic as all hell. Yeah. And it looks like a space where people can get hurt, and no one wants to end up with a hurt athlete at the end of their session. But I think, again, it comes back to how bold you are and how willing to learn you are to try and implement that stuff. And then also having people above you that are giving you this like time, space, and creative freedom to actually try stuff and, say, hey, if it doesn't work, that's fine. I'd rather you try, it doesn't work, and then, because then you're going to make it better.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, love it. Awesome. How do you microdose your week? Hawks mainly, not necessarily for MVP stuff, but
we do. We do. So Wednesday nights was typically our max V exposure day, where we'd hit some form of fly or max effort sprint.
Looking for total volume or just effort?
We were trying to touch somewhere between 92 to 95% max V, like 2 to 3 out of 4 weeks, every 4 weeks. And again, it was a brand new program, so we didn't have existing data for people. So I'm not patting myself on the back, but there was at least 8 to 9 kind of PBs or max V increases across the year, and like no soft tissues directly related to those exposures, which it was as good as we could hope for.
Awesome. How do you go about planning and programming change direction or agility? What's your kind of progression? Not necessarily progression. Not necessarily progression of like where do you start, where do you finish, but what does kind of like one of those sessions look like to you when you're putting or writing it out from like a process point of view?
We start with like post warm up, some like neural prep work. We just find that the neural prep work is just critical to bridging the gap between yawning, mobility,
work,
and actually the first couple of drills. So we'll do some form of neural prep work, whether that's coordination ladder, fast feet work, quick hips, all that sort of stuff. Then we'll go into some form of pre-planned, very basic movement that is going to form the foundation for the next more complex or chaotic drill. So that might be something as simple as like a lateral push-off, band resisted lateral push-off, like deceleration wheel drill, just really, really simple stuff like that, to kind of, not just for the teaching component, but also for like a tissue prep component as well. Because again, this stuff's just so aggressive if you do it with intensity.
Again, it's one of those things that's harder than you think it is.
Absolutely. And then we'll go into some form of like reaction-based agility drill, whether that's really simple like some form of mirror drill with the connecting cord in between, where one person's trying to create space, one person's trying to close space and break or keep the Velcro together. Or the other thing I'm really enjoying using at the moment is the Velcro tag set as well, which is more of like, can you invade or close space again? So like we'll do that after we've done like a pre-planned drill, like a basic end drill, M drill, some curve running, or basic stuff like that. That bleeds quite nicely into the aggressive stuff.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Last question before we finish up with some questions from the crowds before you have to leave. Let's say you're at local sport.
Yep.
Even Div 3, Div 2.
Yep.
Trying to just train good qualities. You're interning, you're volunteering, you just want some exposure. When we're talking about field-based things, what are some like key rocks you'd love to do at that level you think pay off big time?
Yeah.
Apart from just getting exposure to running fast. Because that's something I think is, again, missed a little bit at local sport is running fast. That's why you have so many blokes doing hamstrings on Saturdays.
Yep.
But let's say, I'm a second-year uni student. I'm going to volunteer in not Knox, because I won't use Knox, but Mornington. There you go, Mornington football. Yeah. I want to get my hands kind of involved in that. Where do you start? What are some things that...
Yeah. First of all, what a place to start.
Yeah, huge. Like, so much. Yeah.
What a place to start, man.
Get out of your own way and go do it. The
coaches that get to start at local level versus interning at elite or sub-elite, chalk and cheese.
100%.
Get in there, local. Yeah, get your hands dirty. Make mistakes there.
Have to.
The boys won't care.
They're probably going to do it anyway. So
Exactly. Yeah.
You may as well shake the path.
You were handed a ticking time bomb. It's one of those things. It's like, because a lot of those places don't have access to the gym.
Yeah.
What an impact you can have in terms of just building some baseline level of strength.
Yeah.
Just with 5 to 10 minutes of work post a warm up. Like, unreal.
Huge. I think it's one of those spaces that you just need to get out of your own way and get dirty in, because God, it's so valuable.
Yeah, 100%. And you probably hate 30% of it. That's fine. Like, exactly. What you're going to get is far outweighs what it's going to take away from your life. The big things would be like just nail the fundamentals, like video as much as you can. So if you're just hitting really, really simple things, like you're just teaching them how to accelerate. Yep. So, just going through basic things like 2-point starts, half kneeling starts, all that sort of stuff, and going, okay, what are the positions I want them to hit?
Yep.
Knowing that it's not going to look anything close to what you want it to look to.
Yeah.
But if you can get even 2 to 5% improvement in those guys, easy work once you get to the elite level.
I also think it's such a great environment to just, as we talked about at lunch, just coach reps and see. Like, you're going to see so many different things at local level that you're going to see one guy that does it really well, but you're going to work out how to get that other guy closer to that.
Yes.
And typically, when you're moving into a sub-elite, elite environment, they generally move pretty good. That's why they're there.
Yeah.
So you don't get the chance to break it right down to someone who's a mechanomaniac, just moves like shit.
Yeah.
Very rarely you get one of those because they're good enough what they do. That's why they're there. And I think, again, it's super valuable at a local sport level to get exposed to just different parts of the spectrum.
But not only that, also how to organise the sessions. You talk about having that one person that's good. Man, you are going to rely on them like hell to get out the front and demo everything that you don't want to demo.
Yeah.
Because you're going to pop a calf because you didn't warm up properly before the session. Or, you know what I mean? Like, you want to set a really good example. And this is, I think, one thing that I value a lot. Having done a lot of that stuff early on is I can demo the hell out of a lot of those drills. And athletes are so visual that they will literally try and do it the exact same way that you do it.
Yeah.
So this works against me in the gym where I have just the worst ankles possible. Like, I got no dorsiflexion. So every time I go down into a squat, my heels are off the ground.
Yeah.
So the girls always go, "Oh, do you want me to keep my heels off the ground?" I'm like, no. Like,
too literal.
Yeah. So I'm trying to demo squats less and less in the gym. But going back to that point, if you can get your good athlete out there demoing what you want it to look like, chances are that the guys at the back of the line turned around at the last moment and goes, "Oh, okay, I'm doing what that guy's doing." They didn't listen to anything you said before that. So
because they don't care half the time.
No, exactly. So they're going to have a good movement example to practice from, which is going to be great. Learning how to use that, learning how to actually set up the grids so that no one runs into each other.
Yeah.
So that people have got enough rest time. Starting to use constraints.
Yeah. And it's
like
one of those
harnesses.
Someone sees it that you run it and they haven't done it before. Like, oh, this run's so easy. It's like, no shit, because I fucked up 10 times before that.
Exactly. Yep.
And even simple thing is setting up grids and setting up cones that people just don't run into each other.
No, 100%.
Yeah. And I think, again, coming back to that local level, like, it's such a valuable place to do that stuff because if two guys butt heads, it doesn't matter.
Exactly. Exactly. So, like, I think at that level, if you can be just nailing the basics of pre-plan change of direction, exposing them to some acceleration and some max velocity work. I'm talking like you could hit one drill, one effort post warm-up, one drill, one effort on like you've got how long those local league seasons are like
so
long 16 to 18 games with bye weeks, and then you've got preseason as well, so you've got a lot of time to experiment, so you don't have to jam it all in there at once. I'd be trying to do that, film it, watch it back, see how people move, what's the difference between the good movers and the not so good movers, and then also have a look at but that not so good mover is actually our best player, so putting it into context as well.
Exactly. Love it. Excellent. All right, 2 questions from the gallery. One from T-Rock and one from Jazz, who's actually downstairs right now.
Cool.
Just answer that one on the way out. So Jazz wanted to know what's the difference between if there is a difference between your process or your ability to approach rehab in a clinical space, but in a team sport space. Like, what are the differences that you notice, and is there any you need to overcome from the difference? Because obviously, as we know, in a more of a clinical performance-based space, is a bit more time.
Yes.
Compared to sport, where sometimes you're a little bit hampered by that, and they've got 3 meetings and 2 other things they need to get to.
Yes.
Differences between the two, and what does that look like, and how does your approach change?
Yeah.
Jazz is also involved in both spaces, so
great.
This one comes from
personal. Awesome. Logistics is the biggest one. You can pre-plan in the private setting exactly how you want their session to flow from start to finish. And be pretty confident that it's going to go that way with some modifications along the way. Have time to talk to them pre-workout. You have physio, and we're lucky enough to have physio and Dave as well, who's a great rehab coach, who have eyes on our athletes as well. So, and then just more like direct attention. So I can spend a little bit extra time with someone in the private setting during a field-based session or gym session, because I've got another coach on the floor with me, or I've only got 3 people at field. Whereas like team sport setting, man, some of those days at Carlton where you have 8 people in rehab, you're like, all right, I've just got to fire off some pre-save template conditioning, off-leg conditioning sessions for you 2 while I work with these 2, while I send you 2 off to do some skills with the sport coach that doesn't want to work with you. You know what I mean? So much on the... Selwyn Griffith put it once where you're basically learning to be a high-performance manager at a smaller or a micro level.
Yeah, it's a great way of putting
it. It's honestly, fantastic exposure to actually managing athletes and what they're doing. Because, you'll get ones that sneak off to physio to get treatment because they said, I've got a free spot now. Yeah. You're planning on doing the AD work. Damn, they needled them, so now we can't do AD work. We're going to have to do some gym-based stuff. It's just chaos. But at the same time...
That's the fun of it.
Yeah, exactly. You learn to think on your feet. You learn to be reactive. And you learn to not do dumb things, which is critical. But I think the team sport thing is the integration back into the sport stuff, which is it's the fun, but it's the tricky part.
Yeah.
Private, you have absolutely no control over it, which is hard. They go off and do this. Their sport coach told them to do 75% of the session, even though you told them to do 25%.
Yeah.
You're not there. No. You're just dealing with whatever happens in the aftermath. Whereas team sport, you've got a little bit more control over that stuff, whether that's you've given the instructions to the high performance manager and they're monitoring it, or you're directly monitoring it. Yep. You're going, okay, you're going to do this drill, and then I'm going to fill in the gaps with our AD work. Mm-hmm. 2 very different spaces, but both very, very valuable to learn in. They can make you a really good practitioner in whatever setting that you end up in.
Yep. Yeah. Awesome. Last question, T-Rock, our favourite man.
Tell me.
How did your experiences at Carlton change what you now do at Hawthorn? Because how long did you spend at Carlton?
3 seasons.
3 seasons,
yep.
Yeah. What did you learn from that experience that now you take to Hawthorn and it's just normal practice?
Oh, so much. Yep. The athletic development stuff. I literally only started that year 1 at Carlton. Yep. So that would be the biggest thing. Yep. Stuff that I learned from other people. I learned so much from Riley, our head physio at Carlton, from a rehab point of view. So much. I learned so much from Josh Milner, our high performance manager, in terms of load management and how critical that can be. Yep. It doesn't matter how right you get it in the gym if their loads are way off on the field. So learning that side of things from him was great, as well as our sports science guy, Tommy, and Matty Whitaker afterwards.
Yeah.
I learned heaps from Steve in terms of group programming.
Yeah, we didn't mention Steve yet.
Stevie Moore. What a superstar he is. Learning that there's a huge difference between programming for groups versus individual rehab calendars. Yep. Totally different. It's all logistical for group programming versus you can do whatever the hell you want in rehab.
Yeah. Which
I think is another topic in itself, where you've got so much room to experiment in rehab and try different concepts and stuff. So those would probably be the biggest things. And then the biggest things that I learnt at Carlton were just how to work with female athletes. Full stop. And what I've taken from Carlton over to Hawthorn, that would be a massive one as well.
Excellent. Love it. Thanks for coming down, my man.
Cool. Thanks for having me, man. It's a lot of fun.
First official podcast, technically. Did you enjoy it?
Loved it. Yeah.
You like talking shop. I like talking shop too.
Big time. Yeah.
Well, we're definitely going to do this again on a different topic because I got so many things I can talk to you about. But no, I appreciate you taking the drive down. Again, some highly, highly valuable information. Mainly not necessarily for our Virtus community to an extent, but more for sports science students, coaches, us, everyone. And again, so many people in your network, coaches, things like that, you're one of those people that have so much untapped things that and do really, really well. So I'm glad you came down and made the drive down.
I'm glad you think so.
No. Everyone knows so. Don't worry. You're a favourite among the people, that's for sure. So appreciate you coming down.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to the outro, by the way. Yeah. I can't wait.
We're out of here.
Have a good day.
This is the best.
Incredible.